Chambal Riverfront in Kota, one will find beautifully curated examples of Rajasthani architecture. In fact, the songs of the desert, the culture of the desert celebrate something called stepwells. Stepwells were earlier used and built to collect rainwater because in the desert, if there were no wells close by of sweet water, then rainwater would be collected for use round the year through stepwells. The Chambal Riverfront has taken a leaf, a page out of that wonder that is the stepwell of the desert. And here you can see this stepwell built in this era, but it is built in exactly the same style that you will find stepwells created by kings, royal kings, great patrons, or perhaps even rich businessmen in villages who build stepwells to curate and to collect rainwater. If you look at the carvings in the stepwell, they are all taken from Rajasthani architecture. You will see horses, you will see motifs of the cow, lion, of course the camel, ubiquitous in the desert. Also, what's been very interestingly done here is that this used to earlier be a cesspool, a dumping ground for wastewater and waste. And this stepwell is situated in fact right next to the wall of the old city of Kota. And if you see, this wall has been cleaned up, it's been chemically treated and bleached and cleaned up, so it's been restored. And then all the houses that have actually really come on the wall have been given a similar facade. The water coming out of these homes has been trapped and has been moved underground, so no dirty water flows here. And this beautiful stepwell has clean treated water. So there is no smell. In fact, it's a joy to sort of come and even sit here. And this stepwell created in the Chambal Riverfront as part of this project really is a pristine example of what the modern architects have done with an age-old motif synonymous with the desert, the stepwell. Songs like the Panihari celebrate stepwells, celebrate women who come here to collect water. The stepwell is a meeting point for women, for time for them to exchange ideas, and that cultural motif of the desert finds place here at the Chambal Riverfront.
1400 करोड़ रुपया जो इस पे खर्च हुआ है और इसके अलावा जो कोटा का पूरे डेवलपमेंट पे खर्च हुआ है उसमें कुल मिलाकर के स्मार्ट सिटी का तो सिर्फ 800 करोड़ रुपया है। 800 करोड़ रुपए में 400 करोड़ रुपये आपका सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का है, 400 करोड़ रुपये राजस्थान का है, ठीक है ना। अब 400 करोड़ रुपये और जबकि खर्च हुआ है कोटा में 5700 करोड़ रुपया, तो ये सब पैसा यहाँ से जनरेट हुआ है। 800 करोड़ रुपये निकाल दीजिए आप इसमें से, तो कम से कम 5000 करोड़ रुपए का जनरेशन जो है वो तो नगर विकास न्यास ने किया है और उन्हीं का पैसा से जो है ये सारा डेवलपमेंट हुआ है।
तो ये उदाहरण है कि अगर राजस्थान में दूसरे शहर भी चाहे वो कर सकते हैं,
अगर करना चाहें तो। हमारे मुख्यमंत्री जी कहते ही यही है कि अगली गवर्नमेंट में जो है हर जो आपका डिविजनल हेडक्वार्टर है उनको इसी तरीके से डेवलप करें।
लोगों की भी सहूलियत हमको देखने को मिलती है कोटा में, सिर्फ सौंदर्य नहीं है। अगर आप कोटा में जाना चाहें तो कहीं रेड लाइट ही नहीं मिलता है।
वही तो बात है ना, अगर ये इन सब चीज़ों को इस तरीके से बनाया गया है ताकि कोटा मॉडल जो है देश में प्रसिद्ध हो।
The Chambal River that cuts through Kota city, the heart of the city, and along its banks, people have built houses, lived here over time. They often come down to the bank to bathe or wash clothes. Now what the Chambal Riverfront has done has created ghats or embankments along the banks of Chambal River, in fact more than 20. The most spectacular, of course, is the Singh Ghat. Behind me you can see these 15-foot marble statues made in Baswara marble of lions. Why have lions been chosen as the main motive for Singh Ghat? Well, lions, because Lions represent in Hindu tradition the goddess, and the lion is the vehicle of the goddess. So 9 lions represent the 9 Devis of Hinduism who are worshipped, of course, during the Navratras. Along the Singh Ghat, if you look at the back, is a beautiful walkway that has been created. The minars that dot this walkway are built with a mixture of Rajput and Mughal architecture. A very strong influence in Rajput architecture was the influence of the Mughals. So if you see the domes are made with Mughal influence, and then the awnings and the jalis, which are very Rajput in that sense. So this is a mixture of Mughal and Rajput architecture, very synonymous, especially with the city of Jaipur. You can see the oleander pink behind the lion statues. The oleander pink is, of course, a color which is taken from the colors of Jaipur. It's also called the terracotta pink. And along this way, along this beautiful heritage walk, there is a Rani Mahal right there in the middle, which will of course have restaurants. So this heritage walk is really for the benefit of tourists, for people who want to come and take a stroll along the banks of the river Chambal. There will be shops selling Rajasthani handicraft. There will be small restaurants and cafes to perhaps have a cup of coffee or tea, sit there, sip and enjoy the beauty of the Chambal Riverfront.
To change a city, it is important to make it first economically strong. So when I was first invited to the city of Kota, I thought, no, just a project or two is not going to work. Let's do a 360-degree change of the entire city. So I gave the government an advice that no, we'll do up the roads, we'll do up the chaurahas, we'll make it India's first traffic light free city, which we successfully did now. We'll create parks, we'll reduce the pollution level, we'll create projects which can boost the economy. The city of Kota was known for an industrial town long years back. Then it became a coaching town, and now it is transformed into a tourist town. So a city which is progressing mutates its usage. So this was a very dirty place. All the entire river nalas, the sewer nalas of the city of Kota used to fall in the river. So the Honorable Minister, Mr. Dhariwal, had a dream to create a place which is world class. So this Chambal Riverfront came in, and the Chambal Riverfront was almost a 6 kilometer, 3 kilometer on each side. So I thought, when we are just doing a riverfront, let us not just create RCC walls and platforms to walk around. Let's exchange knowledge, let's exchange art, let's exchange literature. So we created 27 ghats, each with a specific theme, which is, I would say, is one of the best representation of the Indian culture for last 4,000 years. I know the ghats below the 250 level will all be drowned in the river when the flood comes. So the paint used is a very acrylic based paints, which is converts into which is a marine paint. So the ghats have been painted with that. Nothing will happen when it is flooded with water. The plaster work is done with using epoxies, and in which epoxy lining is done, silica coating is done. So many things have been done so that its longevity is there.
The vision behind developing the Chambal Riverfront is also that it will be used for cultural performances, for literature festivals. In fact, ample space has been kept for these kind of events that can be held along the banks of the Chambal River. With the Chambal as the backdrop, a beautiful setting, there can be cultural performances. In fact, an entire ghat called the Utsav Ghat has been kept for these kind of performances, and it will become a hub of culture, art and literature, folk performances. And of course, given the extremely successful the literature festival which is happening in Jaipur, the success of the Jaipur Literature Festival in Jaipur, something similar has been planned in Kota. So here is a library that will ultimately come up, and this is going to be the Sahitya Ghat, or the bank which will be used for literature festivals. It's been earmarked for this purpose. Along the banks, a little stage has been created in marble. There is of course a very fascinating Pustak Mahal. So if you see the domes of the Pustak Mahal, they are actually quite unique. And in the Pustak Mahal are statues of the great artists, writers, Mirza Ghalib, Rabindranath Tagore. Right next to that is a library which will be there for public use. And then of course the Jaipur Literature Festival, which has in some senses become synonymous with the culture of Rajasthan. There is hope that on the banks of the Chambal River there will be similar festivals. So a stage in marble enacted, created for these kind of festivals, so that the Chambal Riverfront does not just become a monument but actually becomes a living, throbbing hub of culture and literature and history. So that's the idea, that people will come here, they will use the backdrop of the Chambal Riverfront to have cultural performances, discussions, talks on literature, and enjoy its scenic beauty as well as dipping into some cerebral pursuits. The Chambal River has 3 dams and 1 barrage, and when the 19 gates of the Kota barrage are opened, then over 5 lakh cusecs of water rush out onto the Chambal River. Now this often causes flooding in those dwellings that have been constructed along the banks of the river. So the Chambal Riverfront that has been planned and designed, it's so designed that it's raised 50 feet above the river, and then the heritage riverfront has been constructed above those 50 feet so that the Chambal water will not flood this heritage construction or the dwellings that are along the banks of the Chambal River. So it has in some senses solved the problem of the flooding that used to happen in low-lying areas. Also 19 sewer lines, 19 dirty water drains were releasing foul-smelling water into the Chambal River, taking away from its beauty. Now that water has been trapped, it's put into a treatment plant, and treated water is then released into the Chambal River. So what you have now is a beautiful riverfront with no smell at all, and what the Kota administration plans is that in this riverfront, along its banks, there will be boating, there will be fun and frolic, water adventures, there will be speed boats, slow boats which will help you take in the gaze and the beauty of the riverfront. There will also be boats that will take a short little flight into the air and then come back to water. So lots of excitement planned along the Chambal Riverfront, because ultimately the aim is people's participation. People who come to Kota should enjoy not only the heritage structure but also some fun on water in the Chambal River. Many of these ghats are dedicated to one particular region. So if you see behind me, there is the World Heritage Ghat, and right next to that is the Bundi or the Hadoti Ghat. Now that is dedicated specifically to this region, which is also known as Hadoti, which comprises of Bundi and Kota. And right in the middle is a cenotaph with 84 pillars. Then next to that is a replica of the Taragarh fort with those 2 elephants astride on the right on the parapet, right at the front of the fort. There is, of course, when you talk about Bundi and Kota, you have to talk about the glorious history. No tale of historical valor is complete without talking about Panna Dhai and Hadi Rani. Everyone who has grown up in Rajasthan is familiar with those stories. So this Bundi Ghat or Hadoti Ghat is a tribute to the history of this area, to the architecture of this area. And what's going to be special is when people come here, they will be treated to some delicious and special cuisine of the Hadoti region. Chambal Riverfront is also dotted with some wonders. So behind me is an optical illusion. You can see that man sitting out there in a yogic posture. Now that construction is made with metallic sheets. These sheets are very, very finely constructed and they reflect the light. So when you are at a certain angle, you can see a man sitting in a yogic posture. But as soon as you begin to cross this construction, then an optical illusion happens and slowly the yogi begins to disappear. There is of course a deeper spiritual symbolism that when your chakras get activated, then you reach a higher stage. But now you can see, as soon as we are crossing the structure, the yogi has all but disappeared. Now this is an optical illusion, and as you cross him, he again begins to come back into view. So this is one of the many wonderful optical illusions that you can see when you visit the Chambal Ghats. 500-year-old structures like these have also been preserved while developing the Chambal Riverfront. In fact, the Chambal Riverfront is not just about developing the banks of the river, but along its banks have been put out beautiful gardens and lagoons and parks, like this Vrindavan garden, which is peopled entirely by tulsi plants. Now, Vrinda in Sanskrit is actually tulsi in Hindi. So the tulsi plant, because it's dear to God Vishnu, has been planted here. All these flower beds are just full of tulsi plants, and there's a beautiful fragrance of tulsi here as you walk. And as you walk, you can also see some beautiful statues which represent the 10 incarnations of Lord Vishnu. These have been made in a special black stone sourced from Rajasthan itself. So the Chambal Riverfront is not just about developing the banks of the Chambal River, but also behind are beautiful gardens waiting to be explored. These are glimpses of Rajasthan. At the Rajputana Ghat, you can see architectural wonders from across Rajasthan copied and replicated in absolutely exquisite detail. So there is the Podar Haveli, they are the Shekhawati Havelis, there is the Hawa Mahal, the Amer Fort, the Patwa Ki Haveli from Jaisalmer, and this entire promenade will be used for carnivals, for festivals. So actually beautiful and exquisitely replicated, and an entire glimpse of the panorama of Rajasthan just in one place. The 6-kilometer long Chambal Vista has been prepared with many ambitious plans. There will be confluences of culture, carnivals, festivals, big gatherings, cultural performances, and even perhaps literature festivals. But there is also an important aspect of the Chambal Riverfront. The lighting has been so beautifully curated that the Chambal River looks absolutely magical by night.